I don't think we have a strong coalition. The Dutch government fell over Afghanistan, and it's leaving in August. Poland has announced, and it was one of the, aside from the Anglophone countries, Poland had a pretty big, important contingent. Poland's talking about leaving. Had Rudd not fallen, Australia was starting to talk about leaving. And people are afraid, as you know, in NATO, that Poland's talk about leaving may start the ball rolling, because this war is really, really unpopular among all NATO publics, with the exception possibly of the United States. So I really think we're looking at a condition in which we may end up the last foreign power in Afghanistan, which is not going to be an enviable position. I just wanted to question your use of the modifier strong for the coalition. The second thing is, the problem I have with the 1 year, let's wait and see kind of approach is that it's not necessarily neutral what we're doing. What if putting all these extra troops in Pashtun villages enrages more and more Pashtuns and sends them into opposition, so that the number of supporters of Taliban goes from 30 or 40% to 70 or 80%, and you get a really big Pashtun insurgency going? Once it gets going, as you know, it's years to put it back down. So it may not be that we have the luxury of, well, let's try this, and if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. We could be digging our own graves here. We could be creating a future quagmire for ourselves, so that by the time a year comes around, we may not so easily be able just to say, well, that didn't work, let's try something else.
Okay, thank you. There was, I think, 2 questions at the back. Can we keep it brief, and I'll ask the speakers to sum up on that basis, because we're limited on time.
Excuse me. My question is to all the 3 panelists. And I am from the United Nations. I was the director for the Conventional Arms Branch there. So my question pertains to the legacy of the US counterinsurgency experience. I'll be brief. Between now and the time that either this counterinsurgency fades away or somebody gets dissipated or disengaged from it, I don't see a conclusive outcome. That being so, between now and a few years down the road, there would be several conferences on Afghanistan where the future of Afghanistan would be discussed. My question, gentlemen, to you is, on one of those conferences, is there a possibility that you will ask for an accountability of the weapons that were brought into Pakistan and Afghanistan throughout this period? How many were brought in and how many will be taken out? Would there be an itemized inventory of that? I'm concerned because according to the US General Accounting Office, out of the 250 million weapons that were given to either the Afghan or the Pakistan army, 36% are unaccounted for. I'm also concerned that the British troops are firing at the rate of 12,000 ammunition rounds a day. Not all of them do explode. Some of them still have shelf life. I'm also concerned that the surplus contractors that are buying the surplus of these weapons from the ICAF, some of them have confided that sometimes more than 20 to 30% of them, they can resell them. I'm just wondering whether in the future of the conferences on Afghanistan, a very prestigious organization like ICSR would request them that they would make it a point in future that when counterinsurgency is brought to an end with direct military engagement of a foreign power, there should be a norm, a global norm of inventory taking at the end of that war. Thank you.
Thank you. And then final question, sir. Keep it brief, and I will ask to sum up.
Absolutely. It's Howard Clark with Blackwatch Global. Very quick question. What do you think of the local defense initiative, specifically NATO basically ignoring the Karzai government and robustly arming tribes and anti-Taliban militias, either alone or in liaison with local police forces? That's my only question. Okay, thank you. So we've got 3 things there. 1 year longer is too long. The legacy of the counterinsurgency and NATO's alternative NATO strategy. I think, given that Peter started, I think you should start, and Michael, you should finish on that. Keep it brief, both of you. Thank you.
Juan, this isn't going to be over in 2011. You just have to imagine, the president's really painted himself into a corner when he decided to increase the number of troops, because you just have to imagine the speech that he's going to give in July 2011. What is he going to say? The surge has succeeded. The Taliban are defeated. The violence is down. I'm now declaring victory and withdrawing. I can guarantee you that's not going to be the case. The violence has increased in each and every year, and it is continuing to increase. In Marja, this much vaunted offensive in Helmand, the gains are falling apart. The Taliban are reestablishing their networks. People are fleeing Marja. So he can't give that speech. So what's the second speech? In my view, the likely true speech. I gave it our best shot. I committed 100,000 troops. We lost so many casualties. I spent as much money as we would spend on health care. It didn't work. I'm pulling out. The Republicans and everybody else will skewer him for that. So he's likely simply to continue. You know, I need more time. He's really got himself into a terrible situation. Second, the legacy of counterinsurgency and of warfare. What a great question. And of course, it doesn't just apply in Afghanistan. You know, I saw this obviously in Bosnia and Croatia. These weapons are all over the place in Iraq and all over the place in Afghanistan going back 30 years. The trouble is the SOBs who planted the mines never made maps of where the minefields are. Of course, in a lot of the mountainous terrain, whether it's Kurdistan or Afghanistan, it rains, the mines shift, and so on. And people are going to be blown up by these things for generations to come. But it would be nice if there was some accountability.
And the third question.
And the final question on the local defense forces. It goes to the larger question of, can you bypass the Karzai government? Afghanistan has a constitution, is one of the most diverse countries ethnically and geographically in the world, and it has one of the most centralized political systems and constitutions. There's no meaningful local government. Every teacher basically reports back to the Ministry of Education in Kabul. Within Kabul, instead of having a power sharing of a parliamentary system like you have in Iraq, it's all powers concentrated with the executive. In reality, it doesn't work. The people in the north do what they want. The Taliban run the south. The use of local defense forces or using with local power brokers really requires you to know, as we on the whole don't, who it is we're dealing with. Remember, these people have their own connections with the Taliban. The Taliban are their relatives. They aren't necessarily the enemy. And that is the difficulty of the whole premise of counterinsurgency. It assumes that we can get people on our side, that our side is distinct from the other side. And that is not always the case.
Michael, the last word.
A couple of quick points. One, well said on the issue of the coalition. A lot of strains, but we still have more than 40,000 other foreign troops. They've put themselves in harm's way quite a bit, as you know. And I would simply say, given that we, at least most of us who have been speaking tonight, have identified a lot of problems in this operation, it's amazing that anybody still wants to be part of this. And so if you have 45 countries that are plugging along together, that's pretty good.